What's up, guys, and welcome to this episode of Tuesday Nights Talks with Miqk. I'm really excited about this, actually, because we haven't done a Be Live interview in the past. We've had people in the office. We've done a lot of those, but I'm pumped because I actually came across Jessica Zweig. Zweig Fisher. Sorry about that. I don't know if I should go by that, but came across her on Twitter because of a great blog that I read, and I'm really excited to have her on. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Can you hear me all right over there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry, the connection on Be Live isn't the best all the time, but I'm sure we'll get through it.
Perfect.
So Jessica, if you could tell the audience a little bit about who you are, how you got started, I'd really love to get everybody acquainted with you.
Awesome, for sure. So I'm Jessica Zweig Fisher, and I'm based in Chicago. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years. I currently run my own personal branding agency called the Simply Be Agency, based in Chicago. Before that, I started my first company when I was 26, and it was a digital magazine for women called CheekyChicago.com. It was a lifestyle magazine covering the city from a girl's perspective. We reached about 100,000 local readers, and it just was a very big, very well-known brand for girls for a very, very long time. And I realized during the course of that chapter the importance of personal branding. And I had been consulting and working with other brands on the side just for fun for a while. And when it came time to start my second business, I had a vision to really develop an agency that supported lots of different types of clients, but I really fell in love with the power of personal branding and really love this space and this industry and where it's going, and saw an opportunity and recently pivoted actually the agency to be solely focused on personal branding.
Oh, wow. I'm pretty pumped on that. So that's funny because for a while, I know that I really wanted to focus on personal branding for individuals, but, it's difficult. How do you kind of approach like personal branding for an individual? Because it takes a lot of work. Is it more of consulting? Or are you producing content for them?
Both. It takes so much work, and thanks for saying that, because I don't think a lot of people realize the amount of creativity and thought and dedication and time that goes into it. So the way that we work is really a three-part process. So we come up with, before you can, I always say like fly the plane, you have to learn how it works, mm-hmm. and what buttons to press and how to land it and how to let it take off. And so we spend quite a bit of time in the upfront with our clients in our discovery phase, where we really get to know who our clients are and what their value is. And a lot of my blog that you mentioned was really about that. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't care about you. They care about how you, they just don't. We're inherently self-involved creatures. It's just the way that the world. And so I always say, how can you make them feel, and what value do you bring to their lives? Why would they follow you? Why would they subscribe to you? Why would they buy your stuff if you're not providing value to their lives? And so we start with the discovery phase, where we do a really comprehensive, very, very deep dive on what makes you you, and what your digital and your personal and your professional personal brand narrative and qualities and feeling and audience really is about.
Right.
Phase two is we identify the strategy that's best for you based on what we learn in the discovery and what your objectives are. And then in phase three, we build that strategy out by building the content and building the audience. So it's very comprehensive.
Awesome. I love that. So I noticed on your website too, I think that a lot of questions that I used to get when doing, personal branding consults was really based around the vanity of it. And like people would ask, like, how do I get more followers? And I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that. But on your site, it says, we don't create followers, we create leaders. And I'm kind of curious about what that means to you as the as the founder of your agency.
Absolutely. So personal branding is the development of thought leadership. Social media and followers is a tactic. It is a conduit to convey your message and deliver impact. And if you can get clear, like I said, on what your value is and why someone should be a part of your tribe to be that leader, that's what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to eliminate the noise. And I always say you can't be everything to everyone, or you'll be nothing to no one. And so knowing that the more you lean into your authenticity, the more you might turn people off, but that's cool. Like, you got to be cool with the fact that people might not like you or not be into your stuff, and own what you're here on this planet to do and be a leader in that. Really knowing what you inherently distinctly have to offer the world,
right?
And leaning into that, and not paying attention to, one, who doesn't like you, two, how many followers you do or you do not have, three, what the competition is really doing, because everyone is a snowflake. I know that sounds cheesy, but I do say that a lot. You inherently have no competition, because no one is you, and you are no one else. And so coming from a place of knowing that, and leading from a place of value and not vanity, is how you become a leader and not a follower.
Right. I love that so much. And I think, what really got my attention, as we were saying earlier, was your article where it says the biggest secret of personal branding: nobody cares about you. And I know that you touched on a little bit, but saying something like nobody cares about you is pretty heavy, especially for people that are like, wow, people should care about me. So what do you mean by that specifically?
I think we spend so much time worrying about our filters and being funny on Snapchat, or having a perfectly polished website, or all these little things that matter to us so much, that we think people pay attention to or think about as much as well. And I always say, you want to do, hi Anthony, you always want to do one of three things when you're providing content, when you're sharing content.
Right.
Being value. You want to inspire, you want to educate, or you want to entertain. Because those are things that inherently provoke feelings and emotions in someone else, right? Or insight. And so when I said that, it was to get people to stop thinking in such a vacuum about how they're showing up online, and what makes them feel comfortable, or what makes them feel confident, or what makes them feel, interesting. And at the end of the day, it's about your audience. What are they gathering? What are they taking home? And being in that mindset first, always thinking about them first, is true makings of a strong personal brand. No one cares about you. They care about themselves. So being mindful of that in everything that you do.
Awesome. That's a philosophy, because I think tries to be funny, or they try to be one thing or another, they're losing the authenticity behind everything. And then that's I don't know, that's the whole point. And I always tell people, you can pretend to be this guy, but eventually you're going to run into somebody and they're going to find out, you know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you're on point with everything. But
yeah, and not to be easy about that. You drop the word authenticity. I think the world doesn't need another gadget or app or software or product. The world needs more authentic people willing to fearlessly be themselves, because when you do that, you free up the world and other people around you to do the same, right? You give people permission.
Yeah. I love that. And actually, I know that I had some questions set up, but that's something that I really do want to talk about too, is that I think authenticity has been used so much that it's almost inauthentic, which is pretty crazy to me. And you have a pretty substantial following on Twitter. I checked it out on Instagram too. I did my due diligence and stalked the crap out of you before we did the interview. So I did want to ask, with your branding, have you come across people in your everyday life, or maybe in your career, where somebody feels that even though you're being inauthentic, but they feel that it's not, for whatever reason?
Sure. I'm sure there are people who think I'm fake, or I think we all tell stories about each other in our minds.
Right.
I have gotten the response that people are always surprised. Not always, but a lot of people are surprised that I'm so nice. I've gotten that. so nice. You're so
Yeah.
friendly. Like, what wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I be? And so, I really try not to think about those people that would judge me or find me inauthentic, because I know that I'm authentic, and I know that what I'm sharing comes from my heart most of the time. If it's not my heart, it's always my heart, whether it's positive or passionate or opinionated, it's always my heart. But yeah, like I said, I always say not to drop a cheesy quote, but your vibe attracts your tribe.
I love it though. It's so true. Right? Yeah.
So be yourself, put out your vibes, and those people that get it will magnetize to you.
Yeah, man, I have some funny stories to talk to you about that too. And it's great the people that you can connect with, but from social media, especially when you do put out like a certain vibe. I do want to, deliver some like key points for the audience and everybody that's going to be watching this. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think are or in your opinion, what are some of the key points that people should take into consideration when building their own brand?
It's a great question. So you want to think about your why. Okay, like really, what's your big picture? What's your end game? Mm-hmm. Why are you investing in a personal brand? And really being real with yourself about that. 2, what's your value? Like, what can you offer the world, your community, your clients, your audience that no one else can?
Right.
And 3, who is your audience? What are their pain points? Because at the end of the day, your personal brand is intended to provide impact and support and help for people in need of it, and understanding their pain points and where they are, where they spend their time. I always say, don't ask people to join your party. Go find where their party is, join theirs, and then invite them to yours. And creating that authentic, there's that word, connection with them in the right space, in the right time, in the right way. So those are the 3 questions I would really start with. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll give you a lot of direction and insight as to where you kind of start shaping it.
I love that. And so what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when they're putting out their content on social media? Because we're talking about building somebody's brand on social media, correct?
Yeah, it's where it will. You listen to Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Like asking like an entrepreneur, like, is the sky blue? Yeah. No. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk all the time too, and he said something recently. He says it a lot. I listen to his podcast, and he said that social media is no longer the word social media. It's just the internet.
Right.
And I was like, right on. So yeah, social media for sure. Like, we're talking about building it. You need to have an audience. Audience is your currency. Audience is the most, valuable commodity that you can have as a personal brand. And where you build your own audience is on social media platforms. So yeah, there's that. But your question was, what mistakes do I see people making?
Yes.
A lot. One thing is inconsistency. Mm-hmm. So inconsistency in not only like how often you're showing up and like where, but also in what your messaging is. So if you want to be a multi-passionate entrepreneur who like loves technology, but you also love fashion and you love your dog and you love to like DIY and you love to give back to charity, great. Like all of that is great, but put that into a context and a framework that is consistent and that actually leads with something.
Right.
Latch onto. People who have an agenda, like people who are looking to just sell you something and not really take the time to like get to know their customers, like right. People who don't go that extra mile once you have invested in them. Like, for example, I don't know if you've ever heard of this girl. I found her on Twitter, I think, Sunny Lenarduzzi. I don't even really know how to say her last name.
Right.
Like my age, she's in Toronto or Vancouver, Canadian. And I signed up for one of her online courses. And she sent me a postcard in the mail thanking me. And a phone call came from her team to thank me for joining. And it was just these little teeny tiny touches that were like, that's that's boss. Like, you really went the extra mile, and that's what her whole brand is about. And so walking your walk, I don't see a lot of people walking their walk.
Yeah, I do love the fact that you just said that that's boss. I think that's kind of like the best adjective to use for anything. But you know, I completely agree with you too. The most is I think that so many people building their personal brand do also listen to like Gary Vaynerchuk, and he always says, what's the best marketing technique? And it's care. But nobody does. Automation's running everything. You know, it's all about like how many likes you're getting, how many followers you're getting, and not really doing the whole depth versus width type of thing. Yeah. And, you know, at least in my experience too, it's like the depth thing, you know, not only does that like feel good, like you can connect, like this, for example, this is what it's about, I think. So I think that that's rad. But, you know, the depth is really where you see the ROI, whether it's in a new friendship or a new client, or both sometimes. And but nobody wants to focus on that, because it's like, if I don't, it's 10,000 followers or bust. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Well, I think the world like of digital, like it cycles. You know, people are into like the quantity and the cloud, and then they flip into the quality. And I've always been a quality over quantity kind of person. I believe in the power of people over popularity.
I love that.
It's true. This is a great example. I've connected with some of my most favorite people, my most closest friends, some of my best clients and best opportunities, like PR opportunities, through social media.
Right.
But you have to be present to it. If it's just the you show, you're going to miss that stuff. And, you know, and so, and I agreed, like, I love that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about care and coming from a place of, you know, he built his audience. Yeah, he's like astronomically huge right now and will be probably for a long time. But you know that he built his primary channel was Twitter, that he built by responding to every single tweet.
Yes, which is crazy to think about.
That's how he built his audience. Think about that.
Yeah. And they people don't understand how much work that actually takes. Like, even like going back into your comments and, you know, going back into your comments and connecting with people, or just remembering to check your direct messages. And man, I'm just thinking about it now. I'm like, I haven't read any of my text messages for like a week. It's so bad, but it's such a cool thing. I'm really glad that we have that in common too. There's so many things I could possibly that I really do want to ask you. I know that we're running kind of close on time, and I really hate the connection of Be Live, to be honest with you. Hopefully we can grab you for a podcast too. We do have a podcast that we put out through 712, which is a lot of fun.
Love podcasts.
Yeah, they're really the best. I really enjoy doing those a lot too. So, do you have any like last tips or bits of advice that you could give for anybody building their personal brand before we sign off? I write a blog a week, which I'll tell you guys about, you know, where to find me. But I always start with like a simply be something tip, like simply be of value was that blog that I wrote about how no one cares about you. And they only care about the biggest secret of personal branding. No one cares about you. But I love that.
I made the cover of The Ascent with that article, by the way, on Medium. It was like really crazy.
That's where I found you, The Ascent, because I contribute to that too. That's awesome. Yeah.
Like that article blew up for whatever reason. I guess it struck a chord with people, which is great.
Yeah.
But I give a tip every week, and I guess I'll just leave you with like the last 3 tips that I've talked about, just like high level. Simply be generous. So you really want to give to get. That's the personal branding economy. People will invest in you after you've like the jab, 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 right hook philosophy of just instilling value, making people laugh, asking them for nothing in return, and then asking them to invest in you. So generosity is a core principle of personal branding. 2 is simply be stylish, like knowing that and you don't have to be a fashionista, I'm not, but you have to have a consciousness of how you show up in the world. Looks matter. You are your own business card. It's personal brand, not a brand, like it's a person. So being cognizant to what you wear, and what it says about you and how it makes other people feel. And number 3, I guess lastly, I just wrote, and I got this actually an inspiration from Gary Vee, but all the same, is to simply be about it. So owning it and really knowing that the only way that people are going to jump on your bandwagon is if you live it and you breathe it and you drink it and you sleep it and you wear it and you are it. That's how people become, they associate you synonymously with whatever your X is. Like if you want people to think of X, think of you, and when they think of you, they think of that X. You have to be it. You have to be about it in every way. So those are the last few tips I guess I would give people. That's awesome. I really love that. To just be about it is such a big deal. Cause it's funny, man. I don't know. There's a lot of things I could say about it, but I just want to leave it at that. So where can everybody find you? You can find me on Instagram. My social, I'll throw out my social, I guess. Jessica Zweig is my handle. There it is. And just Jess Zweig on Twitter. You can go to my agency, simplybeagency.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I blog, and on Medium. I blog all the time on those platforms. It's really where I'm delivering most of my blogging. Facebook. All of it. I'm on all of it. So, but I really would say I spend most of my time on Twitter and Instagram. That's awesome. That's awesome. I checked that out too. And thank you so much for connecting with us. And thank you so much for you hanging around even after the connectivity problems. Of course. Do the podcast, and hopefully we can do this again with a better platform. Yeah. I hate to crap on Be Live, but every time I use it, that's why I don't use it, is because it didn't. I had a little bit of faith, and I really wanted to do this with you today. So I really appreciate you coming through with us. I live in digital and tech too. I have tech fails every day, so it's par for the course. Sure. So awesome. All right, have a great night, Jessica, and I hope to talk to you soon. We will. Let's be in touch. All right. Thank you. Bye.